The sun hung low over the jagged peaks of the Montana Territory, casting long shadows across the rocky terrain. 22-year-old Rosa Aguirre stood before her father, the weight of his disappointment heavier than the thick Montana dust that clung to her skin. "You've humiliated this family," Fernando spat, his eyes sharp as flint. Her breath hitched, the words slicing through her like a knife. How could he not see her worth? Trapped in shame, the scar on Rosa's cheek felt as though it were a brand, a permanent reminder of the accident that had stolen her beauty and her father's affection, crafting a narrative of disgrace that was now woven into the very fabric of her existence. "You'll marry Don Miguel, and you'll do so without complaint," he decreed, his voice unyieldingly firm like iron. The weight of his pronouncement settled over her like a looming storm cloud, dark and oppressive. Rosa trembled, her heart pounding against her ribs in a frantic rhythm, each beat echoing her despair. It wasn't merely the threat of an unwanted marriage that set her pulse racing. It was the realization that her father viewed her not as beloved flesh and blood, but rather as something defective, an embarrassment to his name. She felt her stomach twist painfully, the words igniting a firestorm of emotions, anger, futility, and above all the undeniable sting of rejection. Desperation clawed at her throat as she turned, seeking an escape from the suffocating atmosphere of his judgment. The smell of old leather and sweat lingered in the air, remnants of their ranching life, but now it felt more like a prison than a home. Fernando's gaze bore into her, fiercer than the unforgiving sun above, pulsing with a mixture of disappointment and rage. "You should be grateful," he grumbled. "For someone of his stature, you will carry your dowry and your shame proudly, as a true Aguirre should." The idea twisted in her gut like a knife. A dowry was all she was worth in his eyes. "I will not be his pawn," Rosa whispered, the words thick with emotion, crossing the space between them like a spark igniting dry grass. She could feel hope slipping away, replaced by a fierce resolve. She fled from the house, propelled by despair, a whirlwind of grief guiding her toward the wild and unyielding wilderness that sprawled outside, her only sanctuary from the relentless tides of family expectations, her only refuge. As she dashed into the open fields, the world around her appeared to shift like the landscape beneath her feet. The prairie stretched wide and endless, patches of dry grass clashing with bursts of stubborn wildflowers, pushing their way up through the cracked earth. Rosa pulled her tattered shawl closer around her shoulders, seeking warmth against the cool wind that whispered through the trees, carrying with it the scent of pine and damp earth. Freedom mingled with fear. The wilderness stood as both an escape and an unknown, a vast expanse of potential. As she ventured further, the memories of her father's words spiraled through her mind, shaping her thoughts into something sharper, more potent. "You're broken, worthless," they mocked as she quickened her pace, propelling herself forward. But with each step into the gathering dusk, she felt a shift within, a flicker of defiance beginning to bloom in the pit of her stomach, giving her strength. "I will find my voice," she vowed, a relentless whisper against the encroaching night. The darkening sky, once a comforting blanket, now mirrored her tumultuous emotions, rumbling thunder warning her of the tempest brewing inside. With each rapid heartbeat, she felt the narrative of her life reshape itself. She would not allow Fernando's contempt to define her existence any longer. This wasn't merely an escape, it was a chance to reclaim herself. Suddenly, an uncanny rustle in the underbrush caught her attention, snapping her from her reverie. Heart racing, she froze, straining to see through the thinning trees. It could be an animal, or perhaps a trick of the wind playing games with her mind. Just as her instinct urged her to retreat, she spotted a figure, a man, moving stealthily among the trees. "Stay calm, Rosa," she murmured to herself, barely a whisper as she crouched low behind a thick trunk, every nerve on high alert. The wind shifted again, carrying the earthy scent now intertwined with something compelling, more human. The figure stepped into view, and her heart nearly stopped, the sensation of both dread and awe washing over her. He was tall, with broad shoulders and sun-browned skin, a stark contrast to her pale complexion. The mountain man moved with a graceful fluidity, keen eyes scanning their surroundings like a predator probing its territory. His attire, rugged and well-worn, spoke of a life spent battling the unforgiving elements, a life she had never known. His face bore scars, not merely those etched from conflict, but also the unmistakable marks of sorrow, weariness resting in the lines around his eyes. It was the look of a man who had witnessed more than his fair share of grief and loss. Something deep within Rosa resonated with him. They were both survivors, shaped by the harsh realities of their respective worlds, bonded by their silent suffering. As their eyes locked, something shifted. A recognition passed between them that transcended words. With her heart pounding in her ears, she braced herself for confrontation, half expecting him to study her like an intruder in his domain, to confront her and demand she turn back. Yet instead, he paused, nostrils flaring as he caught her scent. Was it fear or something deeper? Sound echoed as the wind whispered through the branches, a cold rush of air kissing her skin. She waited, breath caught in her chest as he surveyed the area. "You're far from home," he murmured, his voice low yet somehow gentle, a stark contrast to her father's derisive tones that still lingered in her mind. For a heartbeat, time stilled, stretching infinitely as she grappled with her next response. "I have no home," she finally managed, her voice stronger than she felt. The admission surprised both of them, revealing a churning vulnerability. Not anymore. His gaze softened, an ember of empathy igniting within those stormy eyes. "Name's Mateo," he said, frustration giving way to something akin to understanding. "You can stay here with me, or I can point you back to the roads." Rosa weighed his words carefully. "Those roads only lead to more pain," she whispered, her heart racing from the desire to trust this stranger. In that moment of vulnerability, as the safety of the mountains enveloped them both, an unexpected glimmer of hope ignited within her. He gestured towards a nearby cabin nestled among the trees, a rustic haven, framed by towering pines, slightly worn yet inviting. With a deep breath to calm her fluttering heart, Rosa stepped forward. Here was a chance, perhaps her only chance, to redefine her path and reclaim the very essence of who she was meant to be. Together they would forge a new journey in the unforgiving wilderness, each of them seeking refuge, safety, and perhaps even the possibility of healing. Mateo stood in front of her, the weight of a world untold shifting in his stormy eyes. The woods surrounded them in a mournful hush, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant call of a crow. Rosa felt the tension unraveling in the air, the promise of something unspoken still hanging like the mist that clung to the forest floor. "Come," he said softly, taking a step toward the cabin, beckoning her with a gradual nod of his head. "It's a bit of a walk, but it's safer inside." Rosa hesitated for a moment, the remnants of fear still clinging tightly to her as she followed. Each step made her wary but more resolute, the creaking of twigs beneath her feet grounding her as she entered into a world uncharted. The cabin loomed ahead, an unexpected sanctuary rising out of the earth. Weathered wood blended seamlessly with the wilderness. It bore its scars with pride, much like the man who had brought her here. Inside, the cabin was dimly lit, the sun filtering through small windows, casting patterns of light that danced upon the wooden floorboards. Beneath layers of dust, the rustic furnishings told stories of a simpler life: mismatched chairs, a wooden table scarred from years of use, a thin layer of grime coating every surface. Herbs hung dried from tarred hooks above the fireplace, their perfume mingling with the musty scent of age. Mateo moved with a deliberate calm, his every action purposeful. "Make yourself at home," he said, glancing over his shoulder, his tone both inviting and controlled. He filled a kettle with fresh water and placed it over the fire, the flame licking the metal surface and dancing playfully as he turned to face her again. "Thank you," Rosa murmured, her voice tentatively rising like a timid bird taking flight for the first time. She was acutely aware of how displaced she felt, as if she were a stranger in this new cocoon of safety. She surveyed the space, noting the lack of extravagance, yet feeling an understated warmth emanating from it. "Are you hungry?" Mateo asked, breaking the silence, his voice rumbling like distant thunder. "I have some bread and jerky, maybe a bit of dried fruit." His eyes twinkled with the barest hint of a smile, as if he found joy in the act of sharing. "I could eat," Rosa replied, her stomach quietly grumbling in agreement. Hunger wasn't new to her. She'd lived with it all her life, but this time held an unfamiliar weight, a feeling of possibility. Perhaps this was her chance for rebirth, an opportunity to reshape the narrative of her life. Mateo bustled about the modest kitchen, pulling out the remnants of his provisions. With each careful movement, he seemed at ease in his space, floorboards creaking beneath him, echoing decades of solitude. Rosa watched him as he laid out the simple fare before her, a crust of bread, thin, but there was a familiarity in his actions that began to ease her tension. "Do you gather herbs for a living?" she asked curiously, eyeing the bundles hanging overhead. Some, he answered, pausing to glance up at the herbs. Though I also hunt and trade with the locals for what I can't get myself. It keeps me alive. His expression turned thoughtful, revealing glimpses of something deeper lurking beneath the surface. Life out here can be harsh, but it's the way I prefer it. Rosa could sense the weight of unsaid words, feelings buried beneath stoicism. And what brought you to this life? She pressed gently, feeling drawn to this enigmatic man who had delivered her from despair. He hesitated, his brow furrowing as he studied her. Let's just say that sometimes the world is too much for a man. I sought refuge in the mountains. His voice was low, gravelly, the sincerity palpable even in its restraint. It stirred something in Rosa, creating an unexpected bond of shared pain. The kettle whistled behind him, causing Matteo to turn quickly, breaking the moment's spell. He poured steaming water into a chipped enamel cup, the heat curling steam climbing upwards, a simple yet delightful comfort. Here, he said, handing it to her. Thank you, she said again, holding the cup between trembling hands. The warmth seeped through the ceramic and into her skin, soothing like a balm. She took a cautious sip, the earthy flavor of the herbal infusion filling her mouth. Delicious, she managed to say, surprised by how good it felt to be nourished, not just physically but emotionally. The two settled at the table, silence hanging between them as they shared their modest meal. With each bite, Rosa felt her muscles begin to relax, her body waking up after a long period of dormancy. You're stronger than you look, you know, Matteo remarked, a faint smile breaking through his otherwise serious demeanor. She chuckled lightly, coaxed out by his unexpected kindness. I suppose it's a trait all Aguirres share, she replied while savoring another bite of the bread, or at least what remains of what my father taught me. Your father? His brow furrowed again, clouded with concern, an understanding already forming in his expression. Not one for nurturing, she said, dismissing the pain. He believes strength means suppression, the denial of a greater self. The words hung in the air, heavy with unacknowledged grief. I can relate, Matteo said quietly, the shadows deepening in his eyes. But one must learn to be strong in one's own way. To own that strength is to live authentically, she finished, her voice soft yet firm, and felt a spark ignite between them, a shared understanding. After some time, the conversation began to flow more easily. Until candid moments materialized, he opened up to her in fragments. I once had a family, he admitted slowly, words trickling out carefully. A wife, a young son, lost them both. The air grew still, the crackle of the fire filling the silence with warmth. Rosa felt his sorrow wrap around her like an embrace, familiar and yet foreign. She understood grief keenly. What happened? She asked, her voice trembling like a leaf. A disease. Took them in a matter of days, he murmured, gaze averted to the flames. I couldn't save them. Rosa felt the weight of his words, the anguish radiating off him like heat. It struck a chord within her, and the bond between them strengthened, filled with unspoken sorrows. You sought refuge in the mountains for healing, she surmised gently. More or less, he replied, meeting her gaze now. Many find their purpose out here, drown out the ghosts with the sounds of the wilderness. There was comfort in his honesty, and it unlocked a door within her. Do you feel you found it? She asked, mesmerized by the flickering shadows cast by the flames. For a moment he didn't answer, merely observing the fire as though searching for clarity within its flames. At times, he finally admitted. But the past, it never truly fades. Rosa nodded in understanding, her heart heavy yet hopeful. Neither does our chance for redemption, she whispered, a sense of resolve growing within her. The moment felt fragile, charged with the shared vulnerability that now grounded them both. As the day continued to blend seamlessly into night, Matteo's hits of humor and gentle jesting drew more laughter from her lips. She found warmth in his presence that she hadn't felt for her entire life. With every story, with every flicker of resinous wood, Rosa felt her soul unfurling, like the first blooms of spring beneath the snow. The dim light of the cabin leaned into the spaces made bare by shared truths, weaving this newfound connection through threads of understanding, kindness, and unspoken knowledge. This man was no stranger. He was a kindred spirit, a guide, and perhaps more than that, a chance to reclaim not only her story but her very essence. As sleep beckoned her into its embrace, Rosa felt the resilient stirrings of hope growing stronger, solid and undeniable in the darkness. She would not merely endure, she would thrive, running towards her new life instead of away from her past. Together, she and Matteo would forge ahead, driven by the strength they had each found in their shared moments, learning to redefine what strength truly meant. As dawn broke over the rugged peaks, a soft golden light spilled into the cabin, nudging Rosa awake from the depths of her slumber. She blinked against the brightness and gradually became aware of the soft sounds surrounding her, the gentle crackle of the fire still smoldering, the distant calls of birds awakening in the treetops. It was a fresh start, a morning filled with potential and the promise of adventure. Rosa stretched her limbs, feeling the weight of sleep dissipate as she took a moment to inhale the air deeply. It was crisp, unlike the heavy atmosphere back home. She savored the sensation as she rose from the bed, which had felt more comforting than she had expected. The quilt, stitched carefully, was a testament to token warmth woven through simple craftsmanship. Quietly she dressed, moving lightly about the cabin, not wanting to disturb Matteo as he undoubtedly still slept. She swept her fingers over the wooden table, allowing her gaze to land on the photograph of his family, still so vivid in her memory. There was a resilience in that image of love and loss that struck a chord deep within her. Would she ever find such warmth again? Once dressed, she ventured to the kitchen area, flicking a glance in the direction of the fire. A handful of thick logs remained, and the embers glowed beneath, inviting warmth in an otherwise chilly atmosphere. With determination, she stoked the fire, fueling it with fresh kindling and watching as life rushed back into the flames. The glow illuminated the corners of the cabin, making it feel alive and welcoming. Satisfied, she turned to the shelves, eyeing the jars filled with herbs and preserves, the colors vibrant even in their stillness. "I feel like a true pioneer," she mused aloud, her voice echoing gently against the walls of the modest space. Excitement tinged her thoughts as she imagined using some of the ingredients to create a decent breakfast, perhaps something as simple as oatmeal or a forage dish that would warm their spirits for the day ahead. Just as she thought the quiet moments might stretch too long, the cabin door creaked open, and Matteo, tousled from sleep, stepped inside. The sight of him drew her attention immediately, awakening something deeply internal, an appreciation for this new beginning. "Good morning, Rosa," he greeted, his voice gravelly but rich with warmth. He stepped further in, pausing for a brief moment to take in the glow of the fire, a shadow of serenity flickering against the morning light. "Morning," she replied, her heart warming at his presence. "I figured I'd start breakfast. Are you hungry?" "Starving." He chuckled lightly, the sound brightening the atmosphere, and it infectiously resonated throughout the room. "What have you concocted?" Taking a deep breath, she gestured toward a tin of oats and an array of jars containing various herbs and preserves. "I attempted to gather courage this morning and made oatmeal, or at least I planned to." Matteo's raised brow indicated his amusement. "Oatmeal is good comfort food. It will nourish our strength for the day." He moved to engage, generally an easy pace that belied an underlying strength reminiscent of the mountains surrounding them. Spurred on by their budding companionship, Rosa fetched the kettle and filled it with water, setting it over the fire once more to heat. A momentary silence stretched between them as she prepared the meal, the warmth of his presence weaving around her like a cocoon. "How did you end up in the mountains?" she asked again, curiosity thrumming beneath her fingertips as she stirred the grains. "I know you mentioned a desire for redemption, but there's more to it, isn't there?" Matteo was quiet for a moment, his gaze turned toward the flames as though they held answers yet to be revealed. "You might say I saw the mountains as a second chance. I had lost everything I knew and loved, and there's a kind of isolation that offers both clarity and healing, however difficult. I thought I could rid myself of the ghosts." "And have you rid yourself of your ghosts?" she inquired gently, her heart reaching out to him. "The mountains are a harsh and steady truth, Rosa," he replied thoughtfully. "They remind me of my grief, but they also foster a connection to the world I thought I had lost. They teach me. They help heal." Rosa nodded, feeling deeply for him. "But I know, like the seasons, healing doesn't happen overnight. It's an ongoing cycle." With a loving smile, he nodded back while checking the kettle. "Exactly. Some days it's simply about surviving each moment, taking what you can from each experience." As the kettle began to whistle, Rosa poured the steaming water over the oatmeal, stirring it in with care. The sweet smells of the oats flourished in the air, complemented by a jar of warm honey they would drizzle over the top. Matteo watched her work, the admiration evident in his eyes. "I envy your strength, Rosa," he remarked. "You've already begun reshaping your narrative by simply being here, embracing this world. That takes more courage than you know." Rosa felt her cheeks warm. "I'm still figuring things out. Every moment is an upward climb, isn't it?" "Yes, but even arduous journeys have their moments of beauty," he noted, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. The reassuring warmth enveloped her, igniting a timid confidence that grew with every shared moment. "Every step we take here is a testament to our resilience." As they plated the warm oatmeal and drizzled honey over it, the day felt alive with possibilities. They settled at the rough-hewn table, the sun shining brightly through the windows, illuminating the simplicity of their meal. The conversation flowed, easy and warm, like the honey that graced their breakfast, laced with laughter and stories of their pasts. Morning slipped into noon, and together they planned for their first outing into the wilderness. Rosa's early eagerness propelled her forward, heart racing with anticipation. Matteo outlined routes they could take, invigorating her imagination as he described looming cliffs, deep valleys, and hidden springs bursting with life. "There's so much to explore. We'll follow the river north until we reach the glade. It's a sanctuary where the wildlife thrives," he explained, painting a picture of hidden beauty. As they meticulously prepared their provisions, a mix of excitement and nervous energy coursed through Rosa's veins. "I can't wait," she said, her voice almost breathless with enthusiasm. "When do we set out?" "Soon. Gather your strength. We want to make the journey before the sun reaches its zenith." He smiled reassuringly, and she recognized it as an invitation to embrace the limitless potential of this burgeoning bond. Soon, they were stepping out of the cabin, the mountains standing resolute around them. The air was fresh with the scent of pine, invigorating the senses as they began their hike. Matteo led the way, moving with an ease that seemed instinctual. Rosa followed, each step grounded in confidence as the fortified spirit led her through the wilderness. Her senses were overwhelmed by the cacophony of nature surrounding them. The chorus of rustling leaves, the distant call of soaring eagles, and the soft crunch of gravel underfoot, creating a symphony of the wild. The world unfolded before her, offering splendors that beckoned with every breath. As they descended into a narrow canyon, Matteo navigated adeptly over rocks and roots, his movements exhibiting a grace born from a lifetime within the mountains. Rosa struggled at times, but with each near misstep, Matteo was by her side, a steady hand ready to guide her. "Watch your footing here," he advised gently, their hands brushing briefly, a sweet flicker of warmth as she steadied herself. "The terrain is steep, but with practice, you'll learn to dance among the wild," he encouraged, a playful challenge in his tone that ignited her spirit. Hours melted away as they ventured deeper into the heart of the wilderness. Matteo guided her toward hidden springs, plentiful with cool, clear water, stopping to let them drink. He shared how nature, with all its wild eccentricities, was a teacher, authentic and demanding. Sometimes it takes losing oneself completely to find the path back to who you are meant to be. They found shelter beneath an overhanging rock, a haven from the sunlight that filtered above. As they lingered there, Matteo initiated an unexpected pause to elaborate on the nuances of the wilderness, teaching her how to recognize animal tracks, how to read the subtle changes in the environment, and whether a thunderstorm was brewing by the way the clouds amassed overhead. "Nature teaches patience, Rosa," he said, a deep intensity in his gaze. "The greatest strength lies in knowing how to live harmoniously within it." "I feel as though I'm beginning to breathe again," she admitted, her voice carrying the weight of her revelations. "I never thought I would be capable of navigating life beyond my father's world. It always felt insurmountable." Matteo's expression softened, a kinship kindling between them. "You are doing just that, Rosa. When one embraces their vulnerabilities, they become free." They continued to share moments of laughter, playful challenges that transformed burdens into joy. Each experience became a thread woven from confidence, connection, and understanding, a tapestry of resilience blossoming against the wild landscape. Eventually, they reached the glade Matteo had spoken of, a wide-open space dappled with sunlight filtering through the trees, vibrant wildflowers blooming amongst moss-covered stones, and the air filled with fragrant grasses. The sight stole her breath away, an overwhelming rush of beauty that settled deep within her heart, anchoring her. "This is incredible," Rosa breathed, spinning slowly as she absorbed the splendor of their surroundings. I could stay here forever. Matteo chuckled warmly, his eyes twinkling with mischief. We can certainly visit often, he replied. But you should savor these moments, learn how to take them with you even when you leave. They found a patch of soft grass to settle on, the sun warming their skin as they sat side by side. With every breeze carrying the whispers of the wild, Rosa gazed out over the glade, feeling alive, truly alive for the first time. They spoke for hours, their words flowing freely as laughter mingled with the sounds of nature surrounding them. Each story served as a mirror, reflecting their shared longing for authenticity, for dreams once buried beneath the weight of unkind expectations. Together, they began to disentangle their pasts and weave a narrative of resilience against the backdrop of a wild, uncharted world. Time drifted like the clouds above them, a sacred communion carved out of the vastness of the wilderness. And as the sun hung lower in the sky, casting fleeting rays through the trees, Rosa felt not just a connection to Matteo, but to herself, her voice, her dreams, a remembrance of who she was meant to be, breaking forth like the first sprouts of life after a long winter. Together we can rediscover our lives, she said finally, the sentiment hanging between them. Yes, Matteo affirmed, resting his hand lightly on her shoulder with a warmth that spoke of shared understanding. We are more than our pasts. We are here to create new futures. As the glow of dusk enveloped them, Rosa leaned into the moment, knowing that each experience will lead them down paths of healing and self-discovery they had long sought. A subtle promise hung in the air, the spark of newfound friendships grounded in the depths of shared vulnerability, that would guide them through the wild terrors and beauties that were yet to come. As twilight deepened over the glade, draping everything in a soft, muted hue, Rosa and Matteo remained nestled in the warmth of their newfound connection. The sun dipped behind the mountains, casting elongated shadows that danced upon the grass. The sound of crickets began to punctuate the stillness of the evening air, creating a natural melody that enveloped them. "This place feels enchanted," Rosa murmured, captivated by the ethereal beauty around them. The world seemed to hush in reverence, embracing their shared moment of surrender to the wilderness. "I often think of it as a sanctuary," Matteo replied, his eyes reflecting the dwindling light. "Here, time stands still, and it allows us to step away from our burdens, if only for a little while." A gentle breeze swayed the wildflowers, filling the air with their sweet perfume, as Rosa slid her gaze back to Matteo. "I could use more moments like this," she confessed, a tremor of vulnerability weaving through her voice. "I spent too long frozen in the expectations of others, holding on to dreams like they were burdens." Matteo met her gaze, a deep understanding flashing in his eyes. "You're not alone in that, Rosa. We all carry the weight of our pasts, but learning to let go is essential to moving forward." As the last rays of sunlight kissed the earth, a contented silence enveloped them, broken only by the gentle rustle of the trees. The air chilled slightly, and Matteo shifted closer, instinctively offering warmth to both the fire and her spirit. "We should make camp soon," he said, glancing toward the shadow rising in the distance. "It's best to be prepared before night fully settles." "Can I help?" she offered quickly, her eagerness ignited by the promise of collaboration. "Of course," he smiled, the camaraderie between them strengthening with each exchange. "Help me gather some firewood, and we'll set up for the night." Rosa followed Matteo as they roamed the periphery of the glade, searching for dry branches and kindling. Each step felt lighter as the anticipation of sleeping under the stars filled her with joy. They laughed as they worked, sharing light stories, pieces of their journeys shaped by loss, but also marked by resilience. Once they gathered enough wood, they returned to the center of the glade, where Matteo arranged the twigs and larger branches into a sturdy teepee structure, setting the stage for the fire. With an ease born from experience, he lit the kindling, and soon flames flickered to life, casting a warm glow that illuminated their surroundings. "Perfect," Rosa remarked, brushing her hands together as she stepped back to admire their handiwork. Matteo chuckled. "You'll make a fine outdoors woman yet." Their laughter burst into the night, the warmth of companionship mingling with the crackling fire. The darkness enveloped the edges of their world, drawing them closer into the brightness of their shared space. As they settled down beside the fire, Rosa felt her heart swell with a sense of belonging. The chaos of her past seemed distant, like a fading echo lost against the backdrop of the wilderness. Together they shared their dreams, her aspirations to create art, to capture beauty, and his ambition to cultivate the land in honor of those he lost. It takes courage to let your dreams breathe, Matteo said thoughtfully, watching the flames flicker. I learned that only when I let my pain intertwine with my creativity could I reclaim my will to live. Rosa felt a tug of inspiration. I've spent so long burying what I want, trying to fit into their mold. But somehow, being here makes me feel free. Being in nature does something to the soul, Matteo replied, glancing at her with admiration. It sheds the layers that weigh us down, allowing our true selves to shine through. They gazed into the fire, the embers crackling as they floated away into the night. But it's hard to remember that sometimes, Rosa admitted. I feel like I'm still tangled up in fear. It has a way of creeping back into my mind. Matteo nodded, his expression thoughtful. Fear can be a strong adversary. What we must realize is that it lives alongside courage. Facing our fears is how we reclaim our lives. And can we actually win against them? Rosa challenged gently, her brow furrowed in contemplation. Every day is a small victory, Rosa, he replied, his voice steady. Sometimes it's a struggle just to get out of bed. But conquering those little battles is what leads to the biggest triumphs. They continued talking under the watch of the stars, their voices weaving a rich tapestry of vulnerability and strength. As the sun began to lower, bathing the landscape in golden hues, they wandered deeper into each other's stories. Tell me about your art, Matteo prompted, his interest genuine. I've always loved to paint, to express what I feel through colors and shapes. I want to create pieces that make people feel alive, Rosa shared, her passion igniting her voice. But it often felt selfish, like who am I to claim the title of artist? Artists do not ask for permission, Matteo asserted passionately. We express the truths we carry within us. It's a gift to share that vulnerability with the world. Rosa leaned in closer to the fire, absorbing his words. With his support, a flicker of courage blossomed within her. I once hesitated to share my work for fear of judgment, but now I want to embrace it. Yes, Matteo encouraged. Let that spark become a flame. Their conversation continued to flow as smoothly as the river winding through the valley, each word exchanged reinforcing their burgeoning bond. They discussed aspirations, dreams caught in the web of longing and heartache. As they settled into a comfortable stillness, Matteo pulled some of his sketches from his satchel, the worn pages a testament to his years among the mountains. This is a glimpse of my world, he said, offering them to Rosa. Nature speaks in ways we often overlook. Rosa flipped through the sketches, her heart swelling as she admired the strokes of his pencil. Each drawing told a story of its own. These are so beautiful, Matteo. You have a gift. Thank you, he replied, humility intertwined with pride. But these are more than just pictures. They capture moments when I've felt alive, connected to the world. Rosa glanced between the illustrations of the mountains, glades, and streams, each one pulsing with life. I want to bring my own visions to life and share this with others. I want my art to ignite conversations. Then let's create together, Matteo suggested, his enthusiasm palpable. We can document this journey, our adventures here, wrapped in art and stories. Let this wilderness inspire us. Rosa's heart raced with excitement, igniting her spirit further. I would love that. It seems so fitting, doesn't it? Capturing moments that matter while healing through art. Yes, he said, a playful grin forming. We'll become a creative duo, stirring the hearts of those who meet us. As the fire crackled beside them, a gentle breeze whispered through the trees, and they found solace in the rhythm of the night. They were not just a man and a woman bonding over loss, but two kindred spirits discovering the potential in each other, weaving together stories, creativity, and hope. As the flames danced higher, Matteo lightly touched Rosa's arm, igniting sparks of warmth that traveled through her. Rosa, we need a brave mission tonight. How about we explore the forest, gather inspiration for our art escapade? Now? At night? She replied, her eyes wide with mixed excitement and fear. Why not? Matteo chuckled. The night holds secrets we haven't uncovered yet. Rosa took a deep breath, weighing her trepidation against the thrill of adventure. All right, let's explore. They packed a small satchel with essential items, some water, a sketchbook, and a couple of lanterns to illuminate their path. Matteo took the lead, his keen senses guiding them deeper into the enchanting wilderness. As they wandered through the moonlit trees, the shadows shifted against the pale light, creating a world alive with whispers of the night. Familiar sounds, the rustle of leaves, The soft hooting of an owl echoed around them, amplifying the allure of their expedition. "Look at that," Matteo whispered, pointing toward a cluster of glowing mushrooms nestled in the underbrush. "They pulse like stars fallen from the sky." Rosa leaned closer, marveling at the soft luminescence. "It's breathtaking," she breathed, captivated by the ephemeral beauty. "They seem to pulse with life, like they're sharing their secrets with the world." "Exactly," Matteo replied, sketching quickly in his book. "Every detail has a story to tell. Nature reveals itself to those who pay attention." They traversed deeper into the forest, guided by the light of the moon and their growing camaraderie. Each stop they made became an opportunity for creativity, Rosa capturing fleeting moments in her memory while Matteo rendered them onto paper. "It feels magical," Rosa said quietly, breathing in the crisp air as they paused beneath a towering pine. "Like we're part of something much larger." "We are," Matteo replied, a soft smile gracing his lips. "These mountains have witnessed generations, carrying stories waiting to be discovered." Hours slipped away as they drank in the wonder of the night, their laughter punctuating the silence and transforming the wilderness into their canvas. "This will fuel our art for years to come," Rosa said, her spirit soaring high. "We're like explorers in a secret world." The night continued to move around them, a gentle reminder of the beauty that thrived in darkness. As they made their way back to the fire, arms filled with sketches, fresh thoughts, and laughter echoing in the stillness, Rosa felt a renewed strength animating her heart. Settling once again by the fire, they admired their collection of sketches, each one a testament to their journey of connection and rediscovery. Matteo flipped through Rosa's pages, a look of genuine pleasure illuminating his features. "Every one of these holds profound power," he said, careful in his observation. "They capture your essence and the light you bring into this world." Her cheeks warmed under his gaze, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, but without your encouragement, I might have never found this voice again. I want to embrace it, Matteo." "Then let's promise to nurture these dreams we share," he replied, locking eyes with her, igniting a spark of connection that danced between them. "Together we can create something truly magnificent." As the embers glowed brightly, casting a soft cocoon of light and warmth around them, Rosa felt an overwhelming wave of contentment wash over her. For the first time in what felt like forever, she could envision herself not through the lens of her past, but in the light of her future, a future intertwined with the vibrant threads of creativity and friendship. Embracing the richness of their bond, Rosa realized they were no longer simply navigating through the wilderness. They were exploring the depths of their own souls, seeking to reclaim the parts of themselves long forgotten. The wilderness held challenges ahead, but with Matteo by her side, she felt the exhilarating promise of transformation. "Here's to new beginnings," she toasted, raising an imaginary glass to the stars above. "To new beginnings," Matteo echoed, a smile spreading across his face, mirroring the warmth of her heart. As the fire crackled and the stars twinkled like diamonds against the expansive sky, Rosa leaned into this moment of connection, rooted in trust, buoyed by hope, and destined to blossom into something profound. Together, they were writing their own epic tale amid the towering mountains and whispering winds, one filled with dreams unbound and hearts uncovered. As dawn broke over the horizon, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the canopy of trees, illuminating the glade with a golden hue. Rosa stirred awake, feeling the warmth of the sun against her skin, and the memories of the night before flooded back. Conversations that had stoked the flames of her spirit, dreams shared, laughter echoing in the air like a delightful melody. Matteo was already awake, tending to the remnants of their fire, his silhouette framed by the light filtering through the trees. He turned, catching her gaze, and smiled brightly, as if he had been waiting for her to awaken. "Good morning, Rosa. Sleep well?" "Better than I have in a long time," she admitted, stretching her limbs in the morning light. "Thank you for last night. I needed that." "Last night was just the start," Matteo replied, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Today, we'll explore more of the mountains. I want to show you the hidden cave I mentioned." Rosa's heart raced at the thought of adventure. "Lead the way," she said, her spirit reawakened with the promise of discovery. After a quick breakfast of simple fare, cooked over the leftover embers of their fire, they packed their supplies and set off. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of pine and earth, and every step resonated with purpose. They trekked along well-worn paths that meandered through thick foliage and over gnarled roots, Matteo occasionally sharing stories of past hikes and encounters with wildlife. Rosa listened intently, captivated by his vivid recounts and the reverence he held for the landscape around them. "I was drawn to these mountains because I felt their pull," he said contemplatively. "There's a raw power to nature that challenges us, but it also heals us. Every time I climb higher, it's like I'm shedding layers of doubt." "Is that how you found yourself here?" Rosa asked, intrigued. "To escape something?" Matteo paused, gazing out over a breathtaking view of layered peaks. "You could say that. I came searching for solace, but I found more than I expected. I discovered pieces of myself again in the wilderness." As they walked together, Rosa marveled at how the mountains seemed to breathe with life, how they stood as both guardians and witnesses to her transformation. The sound of a bubbling brook reached her ears, and she halted to watch the water cascade over smooth stones. "Just look at that," she said, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's beautiful, like it's always been here, waiting for someone to find it." "Exactly," Matteo agreed. "Nature carries our stories, waiting for someone willing to listen." They continued on, the laughter and camaraderie they had developed flowing effortlessly between them. It felt liberating to be out in the open air, free from the expectations that had once shackled her. In this untamed beauty, Rosa felt a sense of belonging. After a descent down a steep incline, they arrived at the mouth of the cave. It loomed before them, dark and mysterious, inviting yet daunting. Rosa looked at Matteo, her excitement mingled with a hint of trepidation. "Are you ready for this?" Matteo asked, his expression urging her on. Rosa took a deep breath as her heart raced, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Absolutely. Let's see what secrets it holds." They stepped inside, the air instantly cooler and full of earthy aroma. Light streamed in through openings above, illuminating the cave in patches. As they ventured deeper, the echoes of their footsteps danced around them, creating a symphony unique to this untouched haven. "Keep your eyes peeled for anything remarkable," Matteo encouraged. "You never know what might inspire you." The walls glistened with moisture, and the surface sparkled almost magically in the light. Rosa felt as if they had stepped into another world, where stories of the past lingered in every drip of water and every shadow cast by the ferns growing precariously nearby. As they explored, Rosa noticed designs carved into the walls, ancient markings hinting at long-forgotten history. "Look!" she exclaimed, pointing to a series of symbols that adorned the rock. Matteo approached, intrigued. "Those markings are believed to be left by the people who inhabited this land centuries ago," he explained. "They're communicating their connection to nature, much like we are trying to do now." Rosa traced her fingers over the grooves, feeling a wave of connection to the ancient artists who once stood in this same space. She could almost hear their voices, their hopes, and their dreams harmonizing with the natural world. "Do you think they were also searching for something?" she pondered aloud, feeling a kinship with those who had come before her. "Absolutely," Matteo replied gently. "We're all searching for meaning, a place to belong, a way to connect. That's why art and nature are so intertwined. Both seek to express the indescribable." Moved by his words, Rosa closed her eyes and allowed inspiration to wash over her. The cave felt alive, resonating with stories unspoken. She could visualize her next artwork, a canvas filled with the beauty of their shared adventure, intertwined with the history of those artists who had come before. "It's beautiful in here," she declared, her excitement bubbling over. "I can almost see the stories waiting to be told." Matteo smiled, the warmth of his presence grounding her enthusiasm. "Then let's capture those stories together." Eagerly, Rosa pulled out her sketchbook, flipping to a new page. "Help me find the perfect vantage point. I want to translate this feeling into a piece that reflects not only what we see, but what we feel." Matteo nodded and began collecting items from the cave floor. A smooth stone, fragments of minerals, suspended droplets of water. "We must incorporate our surroundings. I may not have your artistic talent, but I'll lend my voice to the visual." As Rosa sketched the cave's details, the drawing came alive in bursts of creativity, capturing the intricate patterns of nature against the backdrop of their adventure. With each stroke, she documented her experience, not just the sights, but the emotions that surged within her. "I think this is my favorite part of the day," Matteo said, eyes sparkling as he marveled at her work. "How the art emerges and the stories we pull from nature." Rosa glanced at his reactions, feeling invigorated by his encouragement. "It means so much to me. This environment is helping me find my voice, and I want to honor it." As the cave revealed its deeper corners, they stumbled upon a small pool that glimmered like glass, reflecting their images into the water. Mesmerized, Rosa peered closer, noticing the striking clarity. "It's like a mirror, a natural mirror," Matteo pointed out, taking the moment to reflect on their journey. "Here we see ourselves not just as individuals, but as part of something much greater." "Yes," Rosa agreed, her heart swelling at the realization. "The mountains, the wilderness, they remind us we are connected. We were both drawn here for a reason." In that moment, surrounded by nature and the echoes of ancient voices, Rosa felt a renewed sense of purpose. The stories within her began to surface not just as whispers of past pain, but as threads of resilience and hope. "We'll use this experience to propel our creations forward," Matteo said, confidence threading through his voice. "Together we'll carve our paths through this earth, reclaiming our voices." Their shared resolve solidified their bond, intertwining their destinies. As they left the cave, Rosa knew the journey ahead would not be easy. But with Matteo by her side, she felt bolstered by the strength of their friendship, the foundation upon which they would build their futures. Emerging into the afternoon sunlight, they stood side by side, gazing back at the cave. The grandeur of the mountains surrounded them, filling the air with an electric energy that surged through her, igniting passions long forgotten. "Let's make a pact," Rosa said suddenly, a bold idea blooming in her mind. "To chase our dreams without hesitation, to create art and stories that speak our truths. Together." Matteo extended his hand, a boyish grin lighting his face. Together. Hand in hand, they faced the horizon, two souls embarking on the adventure of a lifetime, ready to craft their narrative amidst the whispering winds and towering mountains. As the sun began its descent, casting a warm golden glow across the valley, Rosa and Matteo felt the promise of their pact saturate the air around them. They ventured onward, invigorated by the exploration of their dreams and the bond they were forging in the process. "Where to now?" Matteo asked, looking at Rosa with renewed curiosity. His unwavering support felt like a safety net that encouraged her to dream bigger and bolder. "Let's head toward that ridge." She pointed towards a higher elevation above, where a row of rocks jutted out proudly against the sky. "I want to see the world from up there." "Then that's our destination," he replied, his voice filled with enthusiasm as he clasped her hand. "Let's climb higher and uncover the wonders that lie ahead." They made their way up the slope, laughter spilling forth as they traversed the rocky terrain. Each step brought them closer to a shared horizon, a panoramic view of the mountains stretching endlessly before them. Rosa felt exhilaration coursing through her with every heartbeat. Something inside her was awakening, resonating with the freedom of choice and connection. As they ascended, they paused intermittently to take in the breathtaking vistas, the patchwork of green and gold fields, the towering peaks, all stretching towards the sky like ancient sentinels. When they finally crested the ridge, the sight took their breath away. "Wow," Matteo breathed, standing at the edge and gazing out over the vast expanse. "This is incredible." Rosa's heart pounded in her chest, a sense of achievement washing over her. "Look at it all. There's so much beauty," she exclaimed, her voice soaring above the wind. As he turned to face her, the sun illuminated his features with a soft glow. "Together," he said, his tone solemn yet hopeful. "We'll share this beauty through our art. We'll tell stories of this moment, of our journeys, and inspire others to explore their own paths." "Yes," she affirmed, the thrill of possibility igniting her imagination. "I want to create something that speaks to them, that shows the world isn't just in art galleries or within walls. It's out here, in nature, in the wildness of our hearts." Matteo nodded, understanding the depth of her sentiment. When we connect with what's around us, we connect with ourselves as well. Their resolve strengthened under the infinite expanse of the evening sky. As shadows lengthened on the ground, they sat together at the ridge, legs dangling over the edge, catching their breath and relishing quiet moments of peace. With her sketchbook in hand, Rosa began to draw, each stroke filled with the essence of the landscapes unraveling before her, mirroring her journey of self-discovery. Matteo pulled out his own supplies, a few simple tools for sketching alongside her. As they worked, side by side, the silence spoke volumes, each dip of the pencil as lively and intricate as the landscape itself. "How's it coming along?" Matteo asked after a while, glancing at her in between strokes. Rosa beamed, her enthusiasm evident. I think it's taking on a life of its own. I'm trying to capture the way the colors fade and blend together, like our stories intertwining. Mateo leaned closer, examining her work. Brilliant. It speaks of vitality and hope. After a few moments, he returned to his own piece, focusing on the jagged mountains and the sweeping valley below. Their differences came alive on the page, yet they shared a striking connection. Their creations, reflections of a journey that had just begun. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, cascading hues of orange and purple across the horizon, Rosa set her pencil down to take a moment to breathe. This is what I've always dreamed of. Just us, nature, and creativity. And it's only just the beginning, Mateo replied, an arm slung casually over her shoulder. Imagine the stories we'll capture together, the adventures we'll have. We can show others they're not alone, that they too can find their place in the world. Rosa felt a swell of gratitude towards Mateo. His encouragement felt like a lifeline, propelling her toward a future she once thought was lost to her. Thank you for believing in me, she said sincerely, tilting her head to catch his gaze. I see your potential, Rosa. It's always been there, waiting for the right moment to bloom, he replied, sincerity infusing his voice. And I believe in us, our friendship, our creativity, and our shared visions. As the last sliver of sunlight disappeared, casting the peaks into twilight shadows, Rosa felt a sense of completion wash over her. This feels like home, she whispered, swallowing the emotions welled within her. Then this is where we'll begin, Mateo responded, determination shining in his eyes. From this moment on, we'll hold each other accountable, support each other's dreams, and fearlessly step into the unknown. No more hiding. Yes, she said, her voice steady with newfound conviction. Together we'll embrace every challenge and triumph. With a last glance back at the breathtaking panorama, they descended the ridge, their laughter echoing through the valley. Each step felt lighter, each moment more meaningful. They were embarking on a bold adventure, not just in the physical landscape, but in their lives, creating stories filled with hope, resilience, and the transformative power of friendship. As darkness enveloped the mountains, they made their way back to their campsite, their spirits high and hearts full. There, under a blanket of stars, Rosa realized that the journey ahead was not just about artistic pursuits. It was about reclaiming her life, discovering herself anew. With Mateo by her side as both a companion and partner, she knew the world was theirs for the taking.